Dave Palumbo here with Chris, the technician Aceto for RxMuscle.com. Day one at the Arnold is now in the books. We have a champion crowned, and his name, George Peterson. Epic battle on stage. Steve Laureus, George Peterson in classic physique, and as we predicted at prejudging, George just had too much muscle for Laureus. Let's break down exactly what we saw tonight. Obviously, George Peterson showing up on stage, the judges rewarding him with that first place victory.
Yeah, I mean, George has a lot of dense muscle. We've been talking about that for years. And, you know, he's although, you know, people talk about him, could he move to the 212? Is he more of a bodybuilder than a classic? He doesn't have the Steve Laureus golden era, you know, classic lines, but he's definitely, you know, when you really take a look at classic physique, when you look at him in the lineup, the abs are really sunken in, his lats are low, he's got full pecs, he's got the squared off shoulders and, you know, good arms, and his legs are really separated. And, you know, it fits the division. And where he wins, where he pulls ahead, is muscle maturity and muscle density. That's what he has ahead of every single guy in the class, is a level of density and muscle maturity that everyone else lacks. Even if there's more classic lines in the division, there's better physiques in the division, they may not have his condition, and they certainly don't have his level of density.
One of the things that I point out, number one, Franco Columbu was a classic bodybuilder, right? And he was thick as a house.
Yeah.
One of the things that defines classic, I think what a lot of people out there has to understand, is the ability to present your physique in a classical way, showing your lines, you know, displaying it in a beautiful way. And George definitely does that. He's got the posing, he's got the presentation down. He's thick, but he doesn't move like a thick, blocky guy.
Very good.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what really bamboozles you in your mind. It's saying, hey, he is classic, and that muscle is being carried well.
Yeah, no, it's a great summation of the way he handles himself on stage, because coming into prejudging, I always have this negative knock against him, really, George Peterson's not like a classic guy, he's too muscular for it. But really, when he's up there, you know, the way he handles himself and presents himself and the poses and the way he moves, you know, he fits the template that's classic. And, you know, again, you know, I can't keep, you know, I can't emphasize enough how his muscle maturity really puts him ahead of everyone in the class. There's some really great physiques, but I keep being drawn back to George, especially in the lineup, because when he stands, you know, he's got the sunken abs, full pecs, wide shoulders, and, you know, he's got good separated quads.
Who's our Olympia champ? It's Breon Ansley.
Breon.
How does George and Laureus stack up to Breon? I think Breon blows Laureus away because of the fact that he's got more muscle, he's got more density. I think Laureus has got a beautiful look to him, but I think in an Olympia lineup, it wouldn't be this close.
Yeah, no, because it goes back to what's impressive about Breon is the same thing that's impressive about George, muscle density. It looks like they've been training for years and years and years. And you can clearly see, and we'll get to them, the people who got third and fourth are great physiques, but they don't look like they've been training for 15 years. And I don't know how long George has been training, or
he's been doing it a while.
Yeah, so there you go. Or, you know, Breon, he's not, you know, new to the game. He used to compete in 212. So, you know, there's something to be said for muscle maturity and training a long period of time.
Now, having said that, Steve Laureus has one of the most beautiful physiques.
Fabulous.
And maybe some of the best set of arms in the division, especially biceps.
Yeah, well, he's got the best classic pose in the division, bar none.
Yeah.
So it's the irony is when, you know, everyone's got their little happy version of, you know, this is my classic pose. His is by far, without a shadow of a doubt.
And it's unique.
Yeah, and it's fabulous.
You still don't want to demonstrate it?
No.
I'll put the video up.
And you know, when Steve first came out, I thought he was the clear winner,
because we had never seen him in this good a condition either.
No, the condition was right on, and by himself, the lines, you just get really wrapped up in the lines. And you think, okay, this is a classic division. He's in really good shape. He's a tall guy. That helps. There's no way anyone's going to beat him. I mean, I was adamant, case closed. In fact, I took over the play-by-play. And,
You did.
And I said, this is it. This is, you know, Steve Laureus is winning. The irony is, when they put him for the final call-out, next to George.
Alone.
Yeah, I thought there was he had a slighter look to him, like a non-dense.
You saw the weaknesses that he was hiding by himself, essentially, or within a group of people.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. I mean, at the end of the day, you did see, you know, the difference when you compare him next to George, and he looks like. It comes back to the density. I hate to weigh on that because you think in classic, okay, it is about shape and lines and flow, but density plays a
it's a
muscle show.
It's a muscle show. I said that to George when I interviewed him. Courage O'Para, third place. We both were very high on this guy. He has a lot of gifts at his disposal. I think he's still tapping into them.
Yeah.
He still looks like he's got a couple years before he's going to really be a guy to beat. But I think he's going to be very dangerous at some point.
Yeah, he's another guy. He's a Laureus type guy. He meaning his shape will carry him for sure. He's got round muscle bellies. He's got good separation. He doesn't have the density of George, right? And he doesn't have the level of conditioning of those two. But what would he look like with impeccable condition? He might look like he bamboozle you like he's got enough density.
I think he gained over 10 pounds from last year too.
Yeah.
So imagine he does it
He
again.
was extremely impressive last year. He was extremely impressive, and he improved this year. So the trajectory is straight up. I just think that he needs to has to tackle that conditioning issue and bring it into a level of condition that makes it look like he's been training 20 years.
Now, Keon Pearson, who has been training with Flex Wheeler, I was expecting him to be the guy, maybe to beat in this division. He looks great when I see pictures of him alone.
Yeah.
But he is a shorter guy, like you said, and shorter guys have the unfortunate thing about shorter guys is that they can look too stocky sometimes.
Yeah.
And I believe that whatever the protocol that they used to carve him up or fill him up, I think it was too severe. You mentioned the same thing. He looked overblown to me.
Yeah, I mean, he could have been tighter, and I don't know if that was leaner or less water retention.
Right. Because I see a guy with his face puffy,
Yeah.
that's not a good sign.
Well, but he's got a puffy face with very deeply separated certain body parts. So, I mean, I think that was a water issue. I don't know. I don't think he came in with too many pounds of fat on him. I don't think that's the issue.
I've never seen him out of shape really on stage. So the fact that he was a little smoother than he should have been, it tells me that he either carbed too much or didn't pull enough water.
Yeah, no,
or both.
One of the two, and it results in the same exact look.
So
Ironically,
I think he just has to go back to the drawing board. And if I were him, I would find the show as close to this show as possible, keep going because he's got to have a bad taste in his mouth.
I got something in my mouth. Gosh, I got a cold. Yeah, so he's those four guys, have the advantage in the structure department. The irony is the winner, George, less than them, right? Sure. He's got less of an impressive structure than second, third, and fourth, yet he can beat them based on condition and density. But those guys could potentially leapfrog them because they just have fabulous line shape and flow.
And Khalid Shikawi finishes in that fifth position.
Oh, yep.
And he's got a lot of gifts. He just structurally is not better than those top four guys.
Condition, which he should have been.
Yeah.
And he's got a very dense bodybuilding like look, but he's classic. He fits the classic template, and I think that's how they judged it. I mean, not that's how they judged it. I think it was an interesting call. We're going to call four people. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everyone else you're gonna compete 5 through whatever.
And I think they were right with that.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. They're right with it in that, if they put Khalid in there, then you'd say, well, what do you? Should he be second?
He doesn't really match up.
Yeah, it'd be odd. He's as hard in some body parts, if not harder than or as hard as George. So why wouldn't he be second? And it leads to some confusion in the division.
I think his waist wasn't as small as some of these other guys, and that he lost that little bit of that taper.
Yeah.
In the department.
Yeah, he creates one with the big delts, right, and the conditioning.
But then now we're getting back to bodybuilding. So it's like
exactly.
He's kind of not the prototypical classic guy, but he makes the weight is what happens. Same thing with your guy, Jason Lowe, who also looks really good. And I think he's just, once again, suffering because maybe his structure is not as good as those top guys.
Yeah, I mean, his condition was great. His muscle density is great. 2, 3, and 4. It's funny. I'm not even picking the first guy. Isn't that funny? I have the winner as the winner, and yet I'm parading out the guys who will get second, third, fourth as the best in the class because they're potentially the best. Structurally. So if they put it all together.
Flex Wheeler was the best structurally, and he never won an Olympia. So
we are still talking about him, though, right?
Right?
As one of the greatest.
Yeah, of all time. All right, so let's talk about some of these other divisions. Women's physique. Natalia Coelho comes in here. She had a couple second places. She finally gets that Arnold Classic victory. Obviously, that's going to give her a little bit of momentum going into the Olympia against Shanique Grant, who wasn't here today.
Yeah.
It's funny. I remember her in figure. If you remember back to the Nationals when she won, and she had those cross-straight quads on stage, and you and I said, "This girl's got to go to women's physique."
Yeah, she was like the wrong division, right?
Right.
Yeah.
She found her division, obviously, and she's the champ tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Arnold Classic champion. What can you say about that?
Big upset in the fitness division. Whitney Jones, who won here last year, won the Olympia, loses here to Ryall Graber, who actually, she ironically is actually retiring this year. So this is Ryall's last hurrah, so to speak.
She might want. What does that change her mind? I mean, right?
I'm going to tell you what I think. You got to remember, fitness is judged mostly on the routine.
Yeah.
And Whitney's routine, while very, very high energy, to me, didn't do anything spectacular. It wasn't spectacular in my mind. I think Ryall had a much better routine, and I think that's what won it for her. And I think her physique is very on par with Whitney. So I think that
we just love physiques.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people like routines too, the audience, but
the
commentators,
fitness routine
bodybuilding
wins.
Yeah.
Okay, the fitness routine is what wins the
That's
show.
why you have to remind me of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because then I'll make it a physique show again.
Yeah. And, that's just the way it works out. And, Ryall has come here 16 times, she said.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and so the
That's
fact that she
insane.
won is
Time to
amazing.
retire.
Yeah.
16 times.
Now, finishing out the night in figure, obviously, Cyd Gillon. Now, this is an interesting story because she won 2 Olympias, right?
Yeah.
But she has never won the Arnold
didn't know
Classic.
that.
She lost last year to Candice Lewis after
That's
winning
right.
the Olympia.
That
So
is
this
right.
was,
I completely forgot that.
it's risky as the Olympia champ to come back here again. But
She laid it on the line.
laid it on the
She's
line.
Incredible physique. I mean,
I know
this
you've
division-
always been very
Yeah.
complimentary.
Yeah, even when she wasn't winning, I remember seeing it for the first time, thinking like, "Wow, that's amazing." And
Now, Candice Lewis is retiring, or retired.
Oh, a lot of people,
so,
huh?
come Olympia time, Latoya Watts is coming back. So that'll be another battle at the Olympia between
That
Candice.
will be a good battle.
Excuse me, between Latoya and Sydney.
Any predictions?
I don't know. Latoya is my girl. I love her,
Yeah.
but I think Sydney's got the momentum at this point.
Yeah. She looks like a Y.
I'll pick Latoya because then she'll
is
be
a
mad
good
at me.
thing.
I do think Latoya can win that Olympia back.
Oh,
She
yeah.
had some medical problems. I
Yeah.
think she's going to come back and be
Capability.
very dangerous.
Yeah, no, I think she has the capability for sure. No, without a doubt.
Well, tomorrow it's going to be exciting because obviously we got the men's open tomorrow morning.
Crazy.
But for now, we're going to congratulate George Peterson as the Arnold Classic men's champion here tonight. Chris Aceto had a little nap earlier, but we got him up for the wrap up.
Midnight.
That's right.
Let's do the radio show. Hey,
That's
we
right.
got
Well,
up for
let's
that's
knock
what
the
I
radio
do.
show out,
That's
yeah.
what you conditioned me into like
Power nap.
Yeah, take a nap because we're gonna do the radio show at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah. I'm Dave Palumbo with the technician Chris Aceto. We'll see you tomorrow.